Chronic anxiety often announces itself as a persistent inner alarm that never truly turns off, even in moments of safety. The body remains tense, braced for something undefined yet threatening. Thoughts race ahead of the present moment, scanning the future for danger, rehearsing disasters that may never arrive. The nervous system forgets how to rest. Mistaking calm for vulnerability, this constant alertness shapes daily life, making ordinary situations feel loaded with risk. Silence can feel ominous, peace suspicious. The anxious mind believes that vigilance is the only thing standing between survival and collapse. Over time, this internal alarm erodes trust in the world and in oneself. The person may struggle to explain why they feel afraid, because the fear has no single source. It is ambient, woven into breathing, posture, and thought. Living like this is exhausting, yet letting the guard down feels impossible. Anxiety convinces the heart that danger is always imminent, even when nothing is wrong. This sign is not dramatic. It is quiet and constant, a background hum of unease that shapes perception and steals the ease from everyday existence. One of the clearest signs of chronic anxiety is relentless overthinking that feels impossible to escape. The mind replays conversations, decisions, and imagined futures in endless loops, searching for certainty that never arrives. Each thought branches into 10 more, creating mental noise that drowns out intuition and rest. Even small choices become heavy with consequence, as if one wrong move could unravel everything. This thinking is not curiosity or problem-solving. It is fear disguised as preparation. The anxious person believes that if they think enough, they can prevent pain. Instead, they become trapped in their own thoughts, unable to land on peace. Nighttime often makes this worse, when distractions fade and worries grow louder. Sleep becomes shallow or delayed, interrupted by mental rehearsals and imagined mistakes. Over time, overthinking disconnects the person from the present moment. Joy feels distant, creativity stifled. The mind becomes a crowded room with no exit, filled with what-ifs and should-haves. This sign is deeply isolating, because the struggle happens mostly in silence, invisible to others, yet profoundly consuming to the one living inside it. Chronic anxiety does not live only in the mind. It settles deeply into the body. Muscles remain tight for long periods, especially in the shoulders, jaw, neck, and chest. Breathing becomes shallow, as if the body is preparing to run or brace for impact. This constant tension slowly drains physical energy, leading to persistent fatigue that rest is not easily resolved. The person may feel tired even after sleeping, because the body never fully relaxes. Headaches, stomach discomfort, and general aches often appear without clear cause. These sensations are not imagined. They are the body responding to prolonged stress signals. Over time, the person may grow frustrated with their own body, wondering why it feels so heavy and uncooperative. The connection between anxiety and physical symptoms is often misunderstood, leading to self-blame or fear of illness. This sign can make daily tasks feel overwhelming, not because they are difficult, but because the body is already exhausted from constant internal strain. Anxiety asks the body to stay ready at all times, and the cost of that readiness is deep, lingering weariness. A defining feature of chronic anxiety is the intense fear of losing control, emotionally, mentally, or physically. The anxious person may worry about having a panic episode, saying the wrong thing, or breaking down in public. This fear creates a tight grip on behavior, emotions, and situations that involve uncertainty or spontaneity can feel especially threatening. The person may avoid places, conversations, or decisions that could trigger strong feelings. Control becomes a way to feel safe, even when it limits life. Beneath this fear is a belief that intense emotions are dangerous and must be contained. The person may judge themselves harshly for feeling overwhelmed, interpreting anxiety as weakness rather than a signal. This struggle often remains hidden, because the effort to appear composed is immense. Inside, there is constant monitoring of reactions and sensations. The fear of losing control can paradoxically increase anxiety, creating a loop of tension and self-scrutiny. Over time, this sign shrinks emotional freedom, replacing natural expression with caution and restraint, leaving the person feeling disconnected from their own inner life. Chronic anxiety often reshapes life through avoidance. Slowly and subtly, the person begins to steer away from situations that trigger discomfort, telling themselves it is temporary or practical. Social gatherings, difficult conversations, new opportunities, or unfamiliar places may all become sources of dread. Avoidance feels like relief at first, because it reduces immediate anxiety. Yet this relief is short-lived and deceptive. Each avoided experience reinforces the belief that anxiety is unbearable and that avoidance is necessary for survival. Over time, the world grows smaller. Confidenza ero this, replaced by fear of fear itself. The person may feel trapped by their own coping strategies, longing to engage fully with life, but unsure how. This sign is painful because it often conflicts with personal values and desires. The anxious individual may grieve the version of themselves who felt braver, more open, more alive. Avoidance is not laziness or indifference. It is an attempt to protect the nervous system from overwhelm. Recognizing it as a sign of chronic anxiety opens the door to compassion rather than judgment. One quiet but powerful sign of chronic anxiety is the inability to fully inhabit the present moment. Even during calm or joyful experiences, part of the mind remains elsewhere, anticipating problems or reviewing past worries. The anxious person may feel disconnected from what is happening right now, as if watching life through a thin barrier. Pleasure feels muted, fleeting, or fragile. The body may be physically present, but attention drifts toward imagined futures or unresolved concerns. This disconnection can create guilt, especially during moments that are supposed to feel meaningful. The person may wonder why they cannot simply relax or enjoy what they have. Anxiety convinces them that staying present is risky, because it lowers vigilance. Over time, this habit erodes satisfaction and emotional depth. Life becomes something to manage rather than experience. The present moment, which could offer grounding and relief, feels inaccessible. This sign is particularly painful because it robs the person of rest, even when nothing is demanded of them. Healing involves learning that presence is not dangerous, and that safety can exist without constant anticipation. Chronic anxiety thrives in uncertainty, magnifying it into something intolerable. The anxious person may feel deeply unsettled by not knowing outcomes, answers, or waiting becomes stressful, ambiguity unbearable. The mind demands clarity and reassurance, even when none is available. This sensitivity affects relationships, work, health, and future planning. Questions without immediate answers can trigger spirals of worry and catastrophic thinking. The person may seek constant reassurance from others, information from external sources, or rigid plans to reduce uncertainty. Yet certainty remains elusive, and anxiety persists. Over time, this sensitivity can lead to frustration and self-criticism. The person may feel incapable of coping with life's unpredictability. What makes this sign so heavy is that uncertainty is unavoidable. Life rarely offers complete clarity. Chronic anxiety interprets this reality as a threat rather than a condition of being human. Learning to tolerate uncertainty is deeply challenging, but recognizing this sensitivity as a symptom rather than a flaw can soften the struggle and reduce the shame that often accompanies it. Chronic anxiety often expresses itself through irritability that feels out of character or confusing. Small inconveniences trigger disproportionate reactions, and patience feels thin. The anxious nervous system is already overloaded, leaving little capacity to absorb additional stress. As a result, minor frustrations can feel overwhelming. This irritability may lead to guilt, especially when it affects loved ones. The person may wonder why they feel so easily annoyed or reactive. Beneath the irritation is often fear and exhaustion rather than anger. Anxiety keeps the body in a heightened state, making calm responses harder to access. Over time, this sign can strain relationships and deepen isolation. The anxious person may withdraw to avoid snapping at others, reinforcing loneliness. They may also turn the irritation inward, criticizing themselves harshly. Recognizing irritability as a sign of chronic anxiety allows for greater self-understanding. It is not a moral failing, but a signal that the system is under strain. With awareness and support, compassion can replace self-blame, creating space for regulation and emotional repair. Sleep is often one of the first casualties of chronic anxiety. Falling asleep can feel impossible when the mind refuses to quiet. Worries grow louder in the dark, filling the silence with imagined problems and unresolved thoughts. Even when sleep comes, it may be light or fragmented, interrupted by tension or vivid dreams. Waking can bring an immediate sense of dread, as if anxiety has been waiting. Over time, lack of restorative sleep intensifies other symptoms, creating a cycle that feels hard to break. Fatigue lowers resilience, making worries feel larger and emotions harder to manage. The anxious person may dread bedtime, associating it with mental struggle rather than rest. This sign affects both body and mind, eroding concentration, mood, and hope. Sleep disturbances are not simply habits. They are reflections of a nervous system that does not feel safe enough to let go. Addressing anxiety often requires addressing rest, not as a luxury, but as a foundation for healing. At the heart of chronic anxiety often lies persistent self-doubt that quietly undermines confidence. The anxious person questions their decisions, perceptions, and abilities, even after careful consideration. Compliments feel undeserved. Mistakes feel catastrophic. This doubt creates hesitation and second-guessing that slows action and increases stress. The inner voice becomes critical, warning of failure or embarrassment. Over time, the person may rely heavily on external validation, unsure how to trust their own judgment. This dependence can feel disempowering, reinforcing the belief that they are incapable of navigating life alone. Self-doubt is not humility. It is fear, eroding self-trust. Chronic anxiety feeds this pattern by amplifying imagined consequences and minimizing strengths. The person may feel stuck, wanting to move forward, but afraid of choosing wrong. Recognizing persistent self-doubt as a symptom rather than truth is a crucial step. Beneath it often lies sensitivity, care, and a deep desire to do well. With support and compassion, self-trust can slowly be rebuilt, allowing anxiety to loosen its grip.